All right, I'll call the meeting to order. Please rise and join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for coming. Call the roll, please.
Guyer.
Here.
Trustee Spurling.
Here.
Trustee Bauman.
Here.
Trustee Youngerman.
Here.
Trustee Marisak.
Here.
Trustee Betzinger.
Here. And we do have a quorum this evening. Thank everybody for coming tonight. Our first item is public participation. First item is public comment. Any member of the public that's not on the agenda wishing to address the board, now is your time. All right, I don't see anybody in the audience. Is anybody emailed you in advance of the meeting?
We did not receive any emails or phone calls in
Got it.
advance.
And is there anybody on Zoom today that has comment? Just Judy, which you can totally make a comment if you want. All right, hearing none, we'll move on. We have two items on the consent agenda, and I'll entertain a motion for approval. We have minutes of the village board meeting of October 11th, and then accounts payable through October 11th.
So moved. Second.
The motion.
Betzinger, and second by Bauman.
Okay. Trustee Betzinger.
Yes.
Trustee Guyer.
Yes.
Trustee Spurling.
Yes.
Trustee Bauer.
Yes.
And Trustee Youngerman.
Yes.
Trustee Marisak.
Yes.
And that carries 6-0. Thank you. Items for separate action this evening. The first item is ordinance 1930, granting a special use and an amendment to the PUD. This is Strickland Brothers Oil and Lube at Lot 10 of Orchard Crossing, and this is the second reading. Does staff have anything additional
Nope, nothing's changed.
since the last meeting? Does any member of the board have questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Exhibit C, could you explain that to me, please, in plain English?
Yes, so the original PUD listed only one special use for an auto service, so that was taken up by what is now Mike's. We had the Christian Brothers that came before the village, that was settled, and they were added as an additional special use to the PUD. So this one is an amendment to add Lot 10 to have the automotive use there as part of the PUD, so.
But it was agreed upon the first time that there would be one in the PUD, then it was increased to 2, correct? And
Correct.
now we're increasing it to 3.
We'll increase it to allow the 3.
Why do we keep changing this agreement?
Because that is what the petitioners are asking in order to locate there. And the PUD, again, originally restricted it to just one use, and so therefore they have to have this as part of their process in order to even approve the special use for the automotive use per the code.
Okay.
And is, I don't know if it should factor into the decision-making at all, but is it the same owner that owns the Christian Brothers lot and this lot?
Yes,
Same ownership group?
yes it is.
Okay. So do they need the amendment to do this one here?
Yes, because they're not doing it on the lots, either of
Yeah.
the lots that already have it approved as part of the PUD.
Got it. And they're not, we're not eliminating it from the Christian Brothers lot, even though there's
Correct.
nothing there. We're just adding this to another lot. So Christian Brothers is entitled, and
That lot is entitled
that
to
lot could
use.
have an automotive use,
Yes, it
and then
could.
now in this one. Okay.
Then why aren't they doing it on that lot?
That is not the lot they chose to build on. It was brought to their attention that they could go onto the other lot without the additional special use PUD amendment. However, they said that was not their preferred site, and they wanted to be on Lot 10.
Yeah, and I get that. The one question I had is, and I didn't ask this the other day, is they're not taking up a ton of the lot, it looks like. Is the rest of the lot just to be vacant? I figured you might know. Yeah, sure.
Hi, I'm John McVickers from McVickers Development. We're the company that developed the whole Walmart development as well as the project across the street. back in 2005 to 2007. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have, some of which you've already asked. I'll try to do my best to answer them. The Strickland Brothers Group approached us with an interest to locate Strickland Brothers Oil and Lube on one of our outlots. We tried as hard as we could to push them onto the other lot, knowing that that lot was already zoned for automotive, and knowing that there was a history on that lot. They expressed an interest on going on this lot. And we said, okay, you know, we're happy to go down that road with you. We have since gone under contract with someone else on the Christian Brothers lot. I will tell you that in general, we've owned this property, like I said, since around 2005. And the landscape of retail development has changed, as I'm sure we're all aware. It had been changing, and then COVID hit, and that just accelerated that change. So the positives that I'll take out of this, that I would ask you to take out of this is, one, right now, the development was originally intended for cross-access amongst all of those outlots. Right now, you're not getting that cross-access because all of the lots haven't been developed. We haven't had much interest. Christian Brothers was the last party that we had interest in any of those outlots back a couple of years ago. Since then, there really hasn't been any interest. The fact that we have two interested parties right now, they both happen to be automotive, it's the way of the world right now. We own another property across the street, the TLE Daycare Center building that you'll note is also vacant now. What's happening is that in the retail development world, your traditional retailers, including restaurants, are having a hard time expanding, or their business model is such that they're not expanding that much. We've pushed for restaurants on these outlots for years, for going on 15 or 16 years. And the reality is that the restaurant business has wanted to go to Douglas, or they've wanted to go up towards the highway. And that the daytime population, we're continuing to be told, just isn't there. So while automotive may not be sexy, if you will, it's a very valid use. I would urge you to approve it. There's a need in the village. It'll service the village and its patrons. As far as the excess land that Strickland Brothers is going to have, that lot is a large lot, a little bit larger than the Christian Brothers lot. But for the time being, that's all they've decided that they want to use of it. You know, they haven't stated what, if anything, they're going to do with it in the future. However, what they are intending to do is to construct the driveways that go on both the north and the south side of that property to connect to the Burger King lot, which then connects to the Muffler lot, which also then connects to the Fifth Third lot, such that, you know, you're going to have nice cross-access amongst that whole plot of land on the north side of the Walmart there. So I'm sorry to be so wordy. You know, we work every day trying to develop these lots, to sell them, to entice users to come to the lots. We have two good users, and I would just urge you to consider our request and vote yes. And I'm happy to answer any specific other questions that you might have.
Thanks, John, appreciate it.
I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
I do have some questions. As you recall, the last time I was completely against it. It didn't make sense to me business-wise. My question for you this evening, with there being then 3 automotive uses, are they complementary to each other? Are they direct competition to each other?
I don't run these businesses.
Correct.
What I can tell you is that people much smarter than me run these businesses and make decisions about whether or not those businesses can survive
Right.
next to each other. And they've made those decisions to, they desire to be there. So, anecdotally, I would tell you yes, but I'm not running those businesses.
Correct.
But from a competition standpoint, competition's what this country's made of. So I hate to stifle competition. And these businesses want to be there. And like I say, they're in the business of running their businesses and are used to being next to other businesses. So, to me, just on its face, I would say the answer to that is yes, that's my opinion.
And they are aware of the entity that's coming into what would have been the Christian Brothers lot.
Well, I can't say for sure, but they know that that other lot is zoned automotive.
Is zoned for automotive.
So they
Okay.
know that if they wanted to have taken that lot off the table, if you will, they could have taken that lot. They know that Walmart has a Murphy's Oil there. They know that there's a muffler store there. They know that there's a tire store across the street with Firestone. The automotive business is a good business right now. It's better than, selling cell phones and mattresses.
Correct.
So it's one of those things that can't be purchased on the internet very easily. And the internet has crushed the retail, world as we've known it historically. And that was just exacerbated by COVID.
Right.
And I have my own opinions about that. I think that was, on its way, going along for years, and it just sped up. But, in my opinion, the automotive use is a good use. And it's not been for want of trying to find some other use to go there. And it's been a long, long time that those lots have sat vacant.
Right. Do we know the overall investment of this lot? The lot that we're talking this evening, do we know what the overall investment is for this company to come in?
I can't tell you,
Okay. So just based on our discussion, we basically have to trust that they've done their market research and they are confident that they can survive with someone who's doing something similar a door or two over.
Yeah, so the way I would approach that is, I would answer yes, that, these people are sophisticated people. They're opening up Strickland Oils across the country. This isn't just a mom and pop who's gonna make, these people do this for a living, and they're investing lots of money across the country, opening Strickland Oils, as I understand it. If I'm sitting in, from my perspective, the fact that they're gonna go in and improve the land to allow for cross-access that would help the rest of the businesses there on a day-to-day basis, get in and out of that parcel of land, I think that is a big positive. Plus, it's gonna bring people from neighboring towns to your village,
Right.
to get an oil change. How many of those people are gonna go in and stop at Walmart? That's all sales tax revenue that comes to your village that helps pay for, the things that you need,
Right.
You have $248,000 that you just approved for your payroll, or for payables just through last month. So, we all know that it's a business to run village. So, the sales tax that comes in from the people who come to those businesses, that's a positive thing.
Absolutely.
Well, and one thing, and John, I appreciate it. One comment that I always stress us to be careful around is, we're looking at this from a zoning standpoint, not so much from a business decision of the buyer of the lot, that wants to buy your lot. We don't pick winners and losers, we say that enough around here, but it's worth a conversation, or at least to think about. Is this, in my opinion, a good lot for this use? Yes. It's just like everybody else around there, it's been just fine. It'll function appropriately, and it won't detract from the neighbors. And that's, I think, what the main consideration here for the board is, not so much who's going there, but does the use make sense? And it does. The question I had is, their only access is to the access road here, and pardon me, I don't know who owns that access road.
So the access road is owned by Walmart. That's the Walmart parking lot,
Yeah.
if you will. And when the original development was put together, we were asked to limit the number of access points into the Walmart parking lot. And, you know, in general, my understanding is that the fewer access points that you can have, the better it is for the parking lot to operate. That's why we had cross-access amongst all of those lots provided for. You know, I understand, it's my understanding that by putting in by developing the other two lots, now that 4 or 5 outlots there will operate more cohesively, because people don't have to, like, for example, people coming out of the Burger King right now, they can't get over to the access point by the Fifth Third.
Right,
They can only go out the access point by the Burger King.
yeah.
And, you know, at high times of the day, high traffic times, that can be maybe problematic. So by developing this property, a lot of those people are just gonna scoot west, you know,
Yeah.
across the Strickland Brothers lot and go out by Fifth Third,
Yeah.
hop out onto Orchard, and they're gone.
So that was actually my question. So are they right next to the bank site? This,
Strickland is right next to the
Yes.
bank site, but they're developing, or they're going to be building
right,
the road all the way across to Burger King.
right, I get that. So my question is way more basic and benign, is maintenance. So I know the bank has been vacant for, what, a decade or more? Do they plow that in the winter? So if the bank is not plowing that, would then this property owner be allowed to plow that so you can get in and out of their site?
Yes.
Okay.
So there's a site development agreement in place that talks about cross-access and gives all of those lots cross-access, and also allows any other lot owner to maintain another person's property if it's necessary for access.
Got it. So these guys could plow it in the winter to make sure they can operate their business?
Fifth Third is still viable. They have a cash station there.
So they
So they do, that
their
lot
own-
is plowed in the wintertime
Okay,
for that reason.
perfect. All right. Thank you. Any other questions for John or staff?
I just wanted to say thank you for answering my questions. I was about to wrap up before we
Yeah,
jumped
that's what
over,
we're
so,
here for.
Sorry.
thank you.
Your comment about, business model isn't a concern, it's the use of the land, absolutely. What I would like to know, being still a relative newbie on this board, when we have entities that are coming into the village requesting changes, ordinances, and so forth, especially when we talk about automotive use, which we've all driven by them, they can be, some of them have a great appearance, a roadside appearance to draw customers in. Some, you end up with cars out in the parking lot becoming an eyesore. And I understand Strickland is a different model than that. It's 10-minute oil change drive-through. It's a great use there. But does the village have a standard, an elevation standard from businesses that are coming in, a certain expectation that we're expecting to see presented to us Because for Strickland, I had to go through and look on their website to find out what their buildings look like. They're a chain. Some are nice, attractive little buildings. Some are not so much. So what are our expectations or standards when these types of businesses want to locate in the village?
Okay, so we do have some design standards in our Unified Development Ordinance, so that is something that we do look at. So we're looking at materials, we're looking at transparency, how many windows they have, things like that. So that is something that is written into the UDO. Additionally, in this particular instance, the planned unit development did have standards regarding the building materials for the businesses that developed here. So in this particular instance, they did require brick or stone as the main material for the buildings. Additionally, things like having to use paver bricks for the pedestrian walkways and things like that. So when we get into larger developments, the village can, especially with planned unit developments, can add those additional standards and say, this is our expectation for how we want things to look in this development. And it's perfectly within our right to ask that, because when you're coming in for a PUD, it's a give and take. They're asking for something, so we're going to ask for something. And so we build those into those types of ordinance. But when it comes to just straight plan review, we do have some design standards within our ordinance to help minimize, getting a straight CMU building or things like that. So we're getting a higher quality product than perhaps some other communities might get that don't have those type of standards.
Okay.
So is it safe to assume they submitted building elevations that staff or plan commission
Yes, they
reviewed?
did. Mhm.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
Like a motion?
I'd love one.
Motion to approve ordinance 1930 for special use?
Second?
Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Trustee Marisak?
Yes.
Trustee Betzinger?
Yes.
Trustee Guyer?
Yes.
Trustee Spurling?
Yes.
Trustee Bauman?
Yes.
Trustee Youngerman?
But as long as, since my vote doesn't really count, because it's a no vote, it doesn't make sense, the way that this parking lot is laid out. If this is going to happen, your access point here on the, what is it, south side, why wouldn't they go directly to that access road for Walmart?
They would need Walmart's approval, and we wouldn't let them do it. In the PUD, I would assume, we restricted this lot, no access. So now they would need to go back to Walmart to get their approval, and good luck with that. I bet that would not be fun.
Look at what happened with, look at the Burger King lot right now. 10,000 cars a year run over that curb. We've all run over that curb going to Burger King. As we pull in there, if there's a car that comes out, you can't come in without running over that curb. And the only access to Mike's is through the Burger King lot, am I correct?
Well, I think the answer is that with the development of the land to the west of Burger King, you will now have 2 additional exit points. You can go west either on the north side of that property or on the south side of that property. So you have two ways that you can get over to the Fifth Third lot. Right now, they can't get across that land because it's not developed.
So you can turn right out of the Burger King drive-through? You don't have to turn left anymore. You can turn right and go out to Fifth Third and go out that way.
Right, but if
Avoid
this is,
that
if this is going to
congestion.
happen, eventually, if they want to build something bigger, that south access road, if that's not required, that allows them to build
No,
potentially a
required.
bigger.
It is
But
required.
if they have an access point out of, to the Walmart road, do they necessarily need that access?
That's the whole reason I believe that's why in the PUD, they set it up the way it was, to force them to have to have that access road so you can cross-access all of those lots together. That's why this one's restricted. I would venture to guess that what we referred to earlier as the Christian Brothers lot probably has similar restricted access, because it would connect to
Yeah,
Murphy and Mike's.
The access points from that string of outlots was predetermined and given to us. I mean, it was negotiated as part of the PUD with the idea that, in general, and this is, again, a little bit beyond my pay grade, the engineers generally, like to funnel people. And the funneling is just going to get better now.
So it's, the access points are Fifth Third, Burger King, Murphy. 3 access
I don't
points.
think so, but you're on the right track. I don't think Murphy must be different, because they don't look like they're set up to connect. But big picture, this works really great when the developments happen of all these
They all go
lots
together.
soon, closer together. When it takes 15 years to build it out, it gets a little wonky. With any luck, maybe we approve this one, approve one on Christian Brothers lot, and all the cross-access works, and everything should be good.
And obviously I voted no, but I want to give you, if this is going to happen, I want to give you the most developable lot possible. And I'll tell you the reason that I'm voting no. And you and I have had this conversation before, where I think that some of the exclusivity agreements that you sign with some of the people that are in that strip area are limiting the possibilities that can go in there. So, and that's why I'm voting no.
So it carries 5-1 with the dissertation afterwards, and I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, anything else? Thanks, John. All right, moving on. Item 2 this evening is ordinance 1931, setting a date for a public hearing for TIF number 3. This is actually, we're looking for a waiver of the first reading and passage on the second this evening. But with that, who from staff? Sonia, thank you.
Yep, so we are looking to move forward with TIF number 3, which is the Caterpillar Drive TIF over on Caterpillar Drive and Route 31. So it's the former Caterpillar site. I'm saying that word a lot, I'm sorry. And we're doing this in accordance with the Illinois state statutes. We are setting in this ordinance a public hearing date for December 13th at 7 p.m. So that's your December board meeting in order to meet the 45-day requirement. So additionally, this also sets the joint review board meeting to review this TIF, and they will have to make the recommendation to you. In the ordinance, it does say, I believe, November 12th. Our TIF attorney actually reached out to me today and said she does have a conflict for that date. So when we pass this, I would like to amend that date to November 16th at 3 p.m., which would be the following Tuesday.
And does notice go out to all the JRB folks
Yes.
individually?
Yep, we'll be sending out a letter letting them know it's ready to be reviewed and when
And
the
that letter
JRB
hasn't
meeting
gone
will
out
be.
yet?
What's that?
The letter has not gone out
No,
yet?
it will not go out
Okay,
until after this ordinance is adopted, so it'll go out this week.
perfect.
Mhm.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I do. I have just one thing, just to let everybody know. I did talk to Sonia today. I had some concerns with a map on page 5 of 7, figure A. The original study that we received at the last board meeting, on page 13 of that, it had vacant land and age of buildings, and it had use on there. And they had building 35 years old or building less than 35 years vacant unimproved parcels. And if everybody recalls, that study stated that the vacant unimproved parcels would not be considered part of the TIF. And the parcel to the north of the Caterpillar prime parcel and that one to the east of the prime parcel, which kind of jets out, those were originally marked as vacant unimproved parcels. So Sonia reached out to Tuska and has not received an answer back yet on whether if they intended those to be included or not included, but I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention that I did ask that question. The way I read it from his original report is they should not be included, but I don't think that has anything to do with us having the public hearing at this time. That's something that we consider further down the road. Is that correct, as far as?
Yes, we'll have to nail down the legal description here in the next couple of weeks when we send out the official public notice. So I will be talking with Tuska. I don't believe it is an issue. It is part of Caterpillar's property. While vacant, it's still considered part of their site as opposed to the shearing property that was also evaluated and the Conti, I forget what the other property was out there, which was vacant farmland. And I think that was specifically what was the issue with that particular vacant land not meeting the qualifications. So if this is included, I don't think it's an issue that this is included. I don't think it doesn't qualify, but I will clarify with him tomorrow when I'm able to get a hold of him, or a consultant, just to make sure that that's not an issue.
Okay, and the reason I asked her is because they're separate parcels. They have their own parcel numbers. They're not part of the entire cat property parcel. So I just want to make sure that, you know, we do this right.
Right,
So let
and
me
one of the
a- let me
parcels
ask
is
you-
the railroad property, and that has to be included because it does jump over the railroad. You can't have a gap in the boundary. So it does include that one railroad parcel to
Right.
come out and get that parcel to the east.
So, two scenarios. One, figure A is correct, as we're having it today. Fine, no problem. We approve it. We're just setting the date for the hearing. The second scenario is figure A needs to be updated. Does that impact or invalidate our vote tonight to set the public hearing date?
As long as you're not expanding the area,
Got it.
then it wouldn't.
So we can, okay, perfect. So no issues.
I have
Thank you.
I have a question. Are we okay with the date? Are we in accordance with everything with the joint review being only 15 days? You know, we're not, I'm just thinking like 30 days notice.
No, we'll be fine.
We're okay with all of that?
That's within the timeline, so yes.
Okay.
Okay. So the edit we're making to this is the JRB, where's that one?
Section 5, 5.0.
Section 5.0, November
7.
15th. Okay. Same
16th.
time?
November 16th at 3 p.m.
16th, now that I have it clear in my head. Okay. Is there a motion to approve? Moved by Marisak,
Second.
second by Sperling. This is waiver of first, passage on the second. Any further discussion? Hit it.
Trustee Marisak,
Yes.
Trustee Betzinger,
Yes.
Trustee Guyer,
Yes.
Trustee Spurling,
Yes.
Trustee Bauman,
Yes.
Trustee Youngerman,
Yes.
Carries 6-0, thank you. All right, item C is Resolution 2021-016, adopting a general whistleblower protection policy. Attorney Julian?
Yes, thank you. So this is a new statutory requirement that every municipality adopts a whistleblower protection policy, specifically designating an auditing official that people can be directed to in case they are aware of an improper governmental action. This kind of piggybacks on the sexual harassment update that we did last year, which had more robust whistleblower policies. So this actually establishes what that whistleblower policy looks like. In this case, it has been directed to appoint the village attorney as auditing official to avoid any conflicts with staff in case that a staff member was subject of the investigation. And then in the case that the village attorney was part of the problem, then it would go to the state's attorney's office. So that was how this was structured, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Anything?
Motion to approve.
Trustee Guyer,
Yes.
Trustee Spurling,
Yes.
Trustee Bauman,
Yes.
Trustee Youngerman,
Yes.
Trustee Marisak,
Yes.
Betzinger,
Yes.
That carries 6-0, thank you. All right, moving on to items for discussion. Tonight, we have the audit presentation, and I'll turn it over to Justin for an introduction.
Thank you, President Brawley. With us tonight, we have Jen Martinson with Lauterbach and Amen. She is going to go through various portions of the audit, communication letters, and the audit itself. So I will turn it over to Jen.
Thank you. Good evening.
Welcome.
I do want to start by also thanking Justin for all of his hard work during the audit process, as we do every year. It was definitely a smooth audit process this year as well, with everything going on, and we appreciate all the hard work and effort that goes into that, so thank you. As the board knows, an audit is required to be completed within 6 months of the village's fiscal year end. And really, the goal of that audit is for us as auditors to be able to provide an opinion on your financial statements presented this evening. So we have done that. We've issued an unmodified opinion, which is a clean audit opinion. It is the highest opinion that we can issue. And it really just means that the financial statements that are presented this evening are materially correct or do in fact reflect the financial position of the village. You know, everybody has audit reports in front of them, correct? So I'm just going to touch on some of the major areas throughout that report. There's 3 major sections: your introductory section, your financial section, and your statistical section. In that introductory section, right away on page 3 is where you'll find that transmittal letter. Should be familiar to you. It's a non-financial introduction to the audit report and to the Village of Montgomery. It's written in management's words, so there's a lot of really good information about the village itself, upcoming initiatives and things like that. So just a nice introduction to the audit report. Additionally, on page 16 is the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting that was awarded to the village for the fiscal year ended April 30th, 2020. We are also submitting this report, and we do anticipate the village will receive that award again for fiscal year 2021. It's a very prestigious award that speaks highly to the financial transparency of the village. So a lot of hard work goes into that award, and I do want to congratulate the village for receiving that award again. I believe it was 18 years for this year, so congratulations. The next section is your financial section. The main piece I want to point out there is management's discussion and analysis, which is going to start on page 20. So this is a narrative summary of all that financial information to follow. I know that report in front of you is about 200 pages. Could seem a bit tedious and overwhelming to page through that. So that MD&A section is just about 14 pages. And again, it will touch on all of the information that is throughout those financial statements, key highlights for the year, changes from last year to this year. And really, if you read just those 14 pages, you'll have a full understanding of the financial position of the village. So really good place to spend your time. Just to touch on some of those financial highlights, overall for the village's governmental funds, so including all governmental funds, there was an increase in fund balance of approximately $3 million, with ending fund balance of $14.9 million, of which $4.4 million is unrestricted. The general fund, which did also see a surplus, had ending fund balance of $4.9 million for the year. Overall, for the business type funds or your enterprise funds, there was a decrease this year of $317,000 in net position, with ending net position of $20 million, of which 4.9 is unrestricted. And just as a reminder, that net position number, the difference for the fund balance is that it does include your long-term liabilities and your capital assets, just to keep that in mind. The last section I do want to point out is the budget versus actual pages on page 104, and then continuing in detail on page 106. So just to speak to the general fund again, the general fund did come in over budget for revenues and under budget for expenditures this year. And then finally, we have your statistical section on page 167, which most of you look familiar. I probably have told you this before, that is one of the cooler parts of the audit. It's going to have 10 years of trend information all in one place. So a really cool place to see 10 years of fund balances, property taxes, major revenues and expenditures for the village, all in one section. Finally, you have two smaller reports in front of you this evening. I'm going to touch on the management letter first. We'll say that right on the front. Just a few things to point out this year. We are required to report any funds with deficit fund balance, as you'll see there. Additionally, there is a new GASB standard that is coming out that we have to implement in 2023, and we'll work with Justin to make sure that gets implemented properly then. And finally, on that last page, you'll see in detail any funds that were over budget for the year. And finally, that last letter, I would be required to communicate to the board this evening if there were any disagreements with management, difficulties during the audit, or significant findings or red flags, and I'm happy to say that there was none. So all in all, a smooth audit process, clean audit opinion, just a few recommendations or more of an awareness for the board, but I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Awesome, thank you, Jen, appreciate it. Any questions from the board for Jen or for Justin or anybody? All right, well, thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
You too. All right, our last item for discussion this evening is the 2021-22 snow removal and ice control plan. It's always nice when we can get this prior to our first snowfall, which almost always occurs. I think one year you had it set and then it snowed the weekend before, which was funny. At any rate.
Thank you, President Browley. So hopefully everybody on Zoom can see as well. I hope I didn't mess that up. But anyway, as you mentioned, tonight is the snow removal plan for the Village of Montgomery. This is something that, again, as you mentioned, is important for us and a key service that the village provides to its residents and those who travel through the village. Tonight, again, just want to take a couple of quick minutes, not too much of your time, to kind of go over this. Basically, not a lot has changed over the course of the year. Our mission statement has really stayed the same as we move through from year to year. Just to touch on a couple of critical things that we look at and tools that we use, weather forecasting is always one of the highlights and key focuses that we have, allowing our staff to prepare for storms, pre-event vehicle inspections, preloading salt when needed, so on and so forth. So again, just kind of want to highlight some of the tools that we use. The village does use Weather Sentry, which is DTN. It's been a very good program for the village over the course of the last few years that I've been involved. Accurate allows the village officials the ability to interact with a local forecaster, be able to ask questions and then view questions as well from other municipalities that may be asking questions. So very specific to our particular location and region, and a great tool and resource for us. Vehicles and equipment. So I want to start off by kind of mentioning the picture here. This is one of our featured trucks that we added. The village board allowed us to add a wing plow to this particular vehicle. So this picture serves a great visual of the benefit that this truck brings for the village. The ability, you can see the kind of path in the background there, the additional wingspan that we have, and allows us to cut down on the amount of time it takes for a lot of snow removal on a lot of our larger cross-section roads. When you look at the vehicle equipment list, I know it's hard to tell because I look at this a lot where it's not something you typically see. There's 2 additional pieces of equipment, smaller scale, that are added to this list. But otherwise, the village has done a great job of having a vehicle and equipment at our disposal to allow us to be successful in snow removal throughout the village. I do want to point out, too, at this time, a huge credit due to our fleet staff. Currently, our fleet staff has been working for the past about month, believe it or not already, in preparing for the upcoming snow and ice season. This is something that's critical for us to have done ahead of time. As you had mentioned, President Browley, last time we did this presentation, we actually had snow previous to the event. So again, it's amazing that every year these type of events seem to come sooner and sooner, and therefore we've got to be prepared for this. Yes?
As I look at this list of equipment, and knowing that we're in the process of building a new public works facility, once that public works facility is completed, how many of the vehicles specifically will be under cover and protected?
Everything.
Perfect.
Everything you see on this list.
Thank you.
Certainly. So again, a huge kudos goes to our fleet staff for being prepared and making sure that we're available, all the equipment is available for operations when that time may come. We're all going to cross our fingers and hope that it's going to be a while and be a mild winter, but nevertheless, we need to be prepared. Anti-icing, again, this is something that we've talked about in the past. A couple of quick things to touch upon is obviously we have our truck pictured here. The village did approve purchase of an additional truck similar to this one that'll have the same capability. Unfortunately, the procurement of that has been delayed a little bit, so that'll be an item that hopefully we'll have for our next winter operations, but not this winter. But again, one thing to point out too is our intergovernmental agreement with our neighboring village, the village of Oswego, in which we're able to get materials for brining in exchange for application on some of their roadways. Moving on to road salt, obviously a very critical item for the village in snow removal and ice efforts. The village currently has about 1,000 to 1,400 tons of salt on hand from the previous year. So again, we've made a huge effort to educate our employees and also take the time to calibrate our equipment in order to make sure that we're consistently putting down the same tonnage per vehicle in each section of town, which helps us get a kind of a unified end product when we're completed with the snow removal efforts. And then also too is we've done a lot to drastically reduce the amount of salt that we've used, again, through just some different management practices and using different liquid materials in addition to some of these, to the road salt. Conveniently today, we did receive contracts from CMS, so that's good news. Last year, the village had really good pricing through CMS, and unfortunately, in a year where we should have been able to renew, we weren't able to do that due to some unforeseen circumstances due to one of the vendors. So fortunately for us, the village did somewhat plan for this in the aspect that we budgeted a higher amount than what we were able to renew for. And after today receiving final contracts, we're still going to be under that budgeted amount. So roughly last year, we were about $41 per ton for road salt. This year, we're at $61, and roughly we budgeted about $66. So again, we'll be in good shape. We'll be bringing forth to the board, probably at the next meeting, the approval for purchase of that material. But again, we have plenty on hand. To what this equates to at 1,000 to 1,400 tons is basically we're full with the storage that we have currently at Public Works. That's both with our primary salt barn and our overflow as well. So just to give you kind of an idea of what we have on hand.
So let's say if there was an issue with, because I'm worried about getting that salt, you know, like we can't get anything right now. How long would this salt last us?
It's hard to say because each event is different, and each, the application rates really depend on preconditions, how long duration event, and then post conditions, mostly weather, temperatures, post event are what dictate those. So it's hard to really say. You know, in an average year, I would think that that tonnage should last us a good 2 months. But again, you know, it depends on how many events we get. So it's hard to say. But we share in that concern that deliveries will be an issue, as trucking is a major issue in a lot of industries right now. So again, that's something that we're going to look at as we work ourselves through this winter and making sure that we're setting ourselves up with orders with enough lead time that hopefully we'll be able to get them. But again, there's only so much that we can control. So just kind of moving along with some of the challenges. Again, staffing, one of the things ironically to point out is this will be the first winter in at least the last 2 that I'm aware of where we're going into winter with full staff, knock on wood. So that's a huge benefit to the village in our efforts for snow and ice removal. Again, the ultimate facility size is another issue that we have. As Trustee Youngerman pointed out, a lot of our equipment is stored outside, which adds a little bit of time for us in preparation of storms, and then also in call-outs and getting trucks cleared off and so on and so forth. So something that we'll be looking forward to with the new facility and assisting our efforts in this, in the snow and ice removal. Emergency water main breaks, water production operations, and traffic are really kind of your normal challenges that we also see throughout the course of the year that we have to tend to as well. So just a quick overview. The village maintains snow and ice operations for roughly about 162 lane miles of roadway. We also provide snow and ice operations for a total of 14 different facilities, including Village Hall, Police Department, Public Works, and then a multitude of different water facilities. Just to give you kind of a quick reference of the map of the village, you can see the sections are split up into different color configurations. Those identify the different routes, so you can see that some of those routes are a bit larger than other, but in hindsight, they're really separated into lane miles and are pretty equal in that stance. But again, these are things that when we look at previous years that we look to make recommendations for, which is hopefully with the coming of a new building and eventually being able to add additional staff, we're looking to reconfigure some of these zones to make them a little bit smaller, ultimately giving us a better end product for the residents. This is just kind of a quick reference of the Village Hall and Police Department maps. Again, we kind of identified the primary and critical areas in which we need to clear, and then color-coded the secondary areas are on there as well. So again, as you look at the route assignments, a change from last year. Every position is filled, every name is there, which is, again, a huge factor for us being successful this year. But one of the key things that I like to point out is the fact that with the additional staffing that we've been able to add over the course of the last several years, we've finally been able to take our supervisors and now also our fleet staff and be able to pull them out of those primary rotations into a route where they're better able to be served most like with the supervisors supervising and being able to oversee operations either from commands at Public Works or mobile command from their vehicle and able to assist wherever needed. And then having our fleet staff with the availability to come in and tend to issues in order to keep all of our vehicles up and running in order for us to be at 100%. Just to give a quick overview too, there's 21 full-time staff members. That does include everybody. I won't go through them all. So again, with that, I know everybody's excited to listen to Snow before Halloween. We didn't have any water presentations, so I figured I'd bring Snow in too to help move things along. But again, the village is in a very good position this year, I feel, both staffing and equipment and materials. So we're looking forward to hopefully a mild year, but if not, we're prepared and we'll work our way to the best of our abilities through the season. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thanks, Mark. Questions?
I have a question about when you showed the picture of the truck, you called that a wing plow. What are you calling that?
It's a wing plow.
Wing plow?
So it's an
Okay.
additional plow that goes on the side of the vehicle.
Is that being used primarily on the main roads or using that on residential or using it everywhere?
So we have two different trucks that are set up with that application. One of those is is a tandem axle six-wheeler that we use primarily on our mains route. So that's used on obviously our main arterial roads. And then the other truck that was pictured there is a smaller single axle unit. So that truck is strategically placed in our blue route, which has more of rural roads where we don't have curbing. So we're able to utilize that truck. So essentially in a lot of those applications, we're able to make one pass down the street and effectively complete the clearing of one half of the road and then make the other pass on the other side of the road. So essentially one pass down one street each direction as opposed to the previous two. So again, cutting that time in half.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, moving on. Is there anything new or unfinished?
I have two items. First, this past weekend, everyone knows the story of Kim Liebring, who was shot at Wendy's and paralyzed. I had one of our goals, and I had some guys do this work on the side. She had to have a ramp installed in the front of her home, and so it kind of changed the dynamic of the landscape. And so we went in, we ripped everything out, and we changed it and made it much more maintenance friendly. And so we finished that work this past weekend, and we couldn't have done that without three entities. And the first one is Montgomery Foundation. So thank you, Pete. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Marion, for the donation. Brian Dolan from Dolan and Murphy in his significant donation. And also the owner of Wilson Nursery. She has 3 locations, one of them being in Bolingbrook, gave us a significant discount on plant material. And so we were able to do that. And the donations that we're receiving are actually going to go further than we thought. And so we're working with her to provide extended maintenance and those sorts of things. That way she won't have to worry about that sort of stuff. So we finished it Saturday right before, Sunday. They've been watered in real well. I don't think we'll have to go out there. And then, I met with her yesterday and talked to her a little bit today, and she's very appreciative. I have pictures on my phone if anyone wants to see them, but she's thankful for everything that everyone has done. So thank you guys again for the significant donations. My second item, I think I'd spoken with either Matt or Jeff about this. As we go and we start this water discussion, I had mentioned to, I think it was you, Matt, about having a potential tour of the water facility for the board. That way we could understand the process. Because whatever process we're doing, it seems that we're going to have to run and manage and upkeep our existing water infrastructure. And so I think part of making the best decision is understanding exactly how that infrastructure works. So if we could set that up, or if any board members that want to do that, you know, I don't know if we do a special meeting type of thing or in groups, but if we could do that, that'd be great.
Yes, and that was on our conversation, and I apologize. And that would be to check out our facilities, our existing facilities and what they would need. So, yeah, absolutely, anybody who wants to.
Yeah, we can reach out and see what the interest is, and that'll help decide, you know, if
Yeah.
it's a special meeting or how we handle it.
Okay. I'm sure Dan needs to get in there.
I just said, do you need a tour?
Right. Dan, why don't I walk you through there? I can show you everything I know.
I would appreciate that,
Yeah.
thank you.
No, that's a good idea. All right. Anything else?
Real quick, yeah, last Wednesday, we had our Halloween judging. We had a total of 8 teams that went out. We had 75 houses nominated. I think we gave out about 70 awards, so it went really well.
It's awesome. I know people love that, honestly. All right. So moving on, future meetings. The one that's not on here is probably one of the most important ones, is the November 3rd open house that we're having in this building from 5 to 7. It's here, right? A water open house, similar to the joint one we did with the other 2 entities, but one maybe that's obviously way more Montgomery-centric. So staff will be here, kind of a public open house setting for residents that have questions or comments, and we'll get this on social media, and you guys will do an amazing job of passing that along like you always do. The other meetings on here, you can see, Village Board meeting on November 8th, and then we have our Water Summit on Saturday the 13th, and it goes on from there. With that, I will entertain a motion to go into executive session, actually to adjourn to executive session,
So moved.
with no action afterwards.
So we're not coming.
We are not coming back.
Second.
It's really just so Jeff can go home. All right, motion and second. Go ahead, Debbie.
Trustee Youngerman.
Yay.
Trustee Marisak.
Yes.
Trustee Betzinger.
Yes.
Trustee Guyer.
Yes.
Trustee Spurling.
Yes.
Trustee Bauman.
Yes.
All right, and we're adjourned. Thank you.